Welcome back to the Stephen Knight Show. Our guest tonight is an activist and advocate for the nonprofit organization called Race for Peace Committee. He joins us tonight to tell us more. Please help me welcome Alim Howell. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Stephen.
Thank you for joining us. So listen, tell us a little bit about you before we get into the organization.
So originally, I'm from the state of Pennsylvania. I'm near the city of Philadelphia area, Delaware, Montgomery County, Pennsylvania. And we have our organization called Race for Peace Committee. And what I've been doing for the past years, we've been doing Race for Peace since 2016. I'm just trying to reach a different demographic of people, basically. So then we're here in Philly on the East Coast, down south, y'all in Atlanta, Georgia. I wrote some letters to the editors for the Compton Herald for California, and I'm basically just trying to make my mark in the USA, basically. I did some things and interviews in New York. So then, basically just things like that, podcasts, letters to the editors, editorials, and some shows and stuff, and just trying to make sure that people know about our Race for Peace organization because it has a good message and stuff. And what we do is we have events with law enforcement and people of different walks of life. So it could be black, brown, white, anything, yellow, that's the Asian community. And then we have events with the police officers to try to mend and have a better relationship with the police. And then we have certain events like basketball games. We have meet and greets. We have ice skating events, talent shows. And that's what we try to do. And our main focus and our main goal is to try and stop this gun violence that's going on. Now, I have a question for you, Stephen, is that in Atlanta, Georgia, do you guys see gun violence and stuff in Atlanta a lot?
Absolutely. That was one of the things that surprised me the most when I moved here, just watching the news, seeing the violence and, things of that nature, you know what I mean? But let me ask you before we get more into it, what made you start in 2016? What made you why was this a passion of yours?
Because we saw the Sandra Bland story, where she passed away in jail. And then also what happened in 2020, that was the George Floyd.
Yeah.
So it was two big things that happened in a 5-year gap. So especially the George Floyd stuff. We started it in 2016, but then a few years later, that officer with George Floyd happened, which that hasn't happened in, I would say, 5 years now. We're in 2025, the police and controversial things like that, really worldly controversial things. I don't think that's been happening a lot. I didn't hear about anything too much like that, the George Floyd incident, and as intense as that was, because that was bad for everybody.
And I think also because we were on lockdown in most places, and so everyone saw it on TV. It was filmed. We saw it on TV. We saw it on social media. So it was a big outpour, response afterwards.
Yeah, that's true too. Right, that's exactly right. Looting, in the area, a lot of looting and stuff, and it was bad. That was a bad scene. There's been a few worldly things that happened, but not as bad as the George Floyd thing. Oh, the one thing with Tyreek Hill, the NFL Miami, that's the Dolphins. He was on the Dolphins and stuff. The Tyreek Hill incident was bad too. I wrote a letter to the editor to the Miami newspapers about that. That was bad too. The Tyreek Hill incident. So that's another thing that was bad, and that was just last year. Yeah. So it was that's a bad thing too.
Yeah. So talk to us about gun violence in the community.
So gun violence in the community, especially out here in Philadelphia, PA, our mayor, Sherelle Parker, and our police commissioner, Kevin Bethel, they say that it's down. But then if you watch the news daily, you can see it on your phone, on the app, on social media. There's gun violence stories that are in the news almost on the daily. And that's what's bad. They say it's down, but then even over 100 is still bad. You really want zero. You want a perfect world, but we don't live in a perfect world. But then each year, they say, like, since the 90s, I'm a millennial, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, like, it's just like they say it each year that, it's going down, this and that, and they try to do more programs. A lot of stuff is about money and funding and putting funding in the gun violence prevention programs. And what I do is, personally, I have meetings with these elected officials. Like I have a meeting coming up in July with are you familiar with the Lieutenant Governor Austin Davis of Pennsylvania?
Yeah.
You have Josh Shapiro, who's the governor, but then the
Hmm.
lieutenant governor, who's Austin
Yeah.
Davis, right? I'll be having a meeting with his staff in July. And then
Nice.
before then, I've been having meetings with senators, state representatives, stuff like that, and just asking them, why is the gun violence continuing to happen? And what they all say, they all have the similar answer of Donald Trump. I was like, it's true, President Donald Trump and the Trump administration, they have to really agree on policies and legislation in the White House with the Democrats to implement into the system.
Right. Yeah. Guns
And
laws. Yeah.
right, but then at the surface level, you know what I'm saying, why they're Democrats are out here, they can be doing stuff too, like simple events like more gun buybacks,
Right.
and just trying to get the illegal guns off the streets, which that's almost like it's been impossible to do to get illegal ghost guns off the
Yeah.
streets.
Now that the ghost, I'm like, actually, the ghost guns now, and they can
Yeah.
print those off of the internet or something like that.
Mm-hmm. The
Yeah.
3D printed guns, right?
3 year printing guns. Yeah. 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 So, what do you think the answer is? Obviously, I see the work you're doing in the community. I did see some. When I was looking doing some research, I saw interviews you have done. What do you think that the solution is?
I think the solution is what the political offices and staff were saying, that the Republicans in the White House and the Democrats in the White House have to agree on
Yeah.
more gun policy and more legislation, because it starts really at the top,
Right.
through Congress, through the House seats and stuff, like the Senate seats and all that. It starts at the top of government, and then it works its way down to like
Mm,
our council people and our commissioners in our local neighborhoods. So
yeah.
then it's really everything. What I've been hearing, it's been the Republicans have to be in the same mindset as the Democrats on how do we stop gun violence and put more gun violence legislation and policies in the
Mhm.
law.
Yeah.
And if the Republicans don't do that, then that's why nothing gets done. And that's why they're arguing almost right now. And stuff is so controversy this year.
Yeah. It's like it's that Second Amendment, and Republicans. Democrats own guns too, but Republicans they'll say guns don't kill people, people kill people. But
Right.
we had because I believe most of the country believes in safety laws to prevent school shootings and things like that. Um, how do you think they mend that fence if there are two different views? The Republicans are thinking one way, Democrats thinking one way. How do you mend that?
They mend it by someone comes up with a law and then everyone has to agree to disagree, basically. Some
Yeah.
people are going to disagree and then some people are going to agree, but they have
Mhm.
to agree on a law,
Yeah.
one to 10 laws or something that can stop the gun violence. And everyone just has to be agree to disagree and put their
Yeah.
personal opinions and just clapping back and all this stuff, and they have to put that to the side and stuff and just agree on some laws to put in the system. Because in Pennsylvania, I don't know too much about Atlanta, Georgia, but then in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the gun violence is bad, it's rising. New York is
Mhm.
another place where gun violence is bad. um you hear the history about Chicago a lot, but I don't know, like
Yeah.
this year is gun violence bad in Chicago though. And then yeah.
Yeah. I know that you do a lot of, police community outreach. Talk about that. I know you mentioned it briefly earlier.
Yeah, the police and community outreach we do, that's everything basically through Race for Peace. And that's when we have events with the police officers. We
Yeah.
do the police and community outreach because we thought, and we still think, that having events with the police could deteriorate and decrease crime.
Building
So
those relationships. Yeah.
right, building the
Mhm.
relationships, especially with the black people in our communities, and brown too and white, but then especially the black, because when you see on the news, it's mostly us shooting and harming one another. Like there's this one incident with a rapper from Philadelphia, and he got shot.
Mhm.
And then I think a good mentor for him was Meek Mill and stuff.
Yeah.
That was a rapper that got shot in Philly this year on Mother's Day. That
Mm.
was right in Philadelphia. And then that was a big one,
Yeah.
and then same thing with you're familiar, Gilly the Kid's son. He was in Philadelphia, and then his
Mm.
son got shot too.
Wow.
That's
Yeah.
so, and with the police officers, we think having like say basketball events with the police and the youth and stuff, it would deteriorate crime because maybe the youth and then some young adults and stuff, they'll think, well, maybe the police aren't that bad. Maybe I won't commit a crime or something like that. Or if something happens, they'll be like, maybe I'll have the police on my side. Everyone has their own angle
Breaking the
of
stigma.
right,
Yeah.
breaking the stigma of doing things. But the police also have to do more community outreach. You know how we have an organization, or you can have an organization, or you can do an event, do your show or something, and have the police on here as a group. What was it called? A panel show.
Yeah.
But then it's us reaching out to them, but then the police has to reach out to us too, though. That's the thing. It has to be a two-way street.
Right.
I think the police can be doing way more events, especially how things are nowadays, of like trying to stop the gun violence, getting involved with the youth. I don't really see too much police and community outreach as much as it was, say, in the 2010s.
Yeah. They got to build that trust within the community, because that's how, trust is the biggest thing. Trust is the biggest thing between the community and between the police. So I agree with you on that. Now, I didn't know, what is RFPC? What is that?
That just stands for Race for Peace Committee. That's our
okay.
acronym for it.
Okay, yeah. So what are some of the work that I know you've done, the outreach? What are some of the things that you've accomplished already that you're proud of? Proud of stuff.
Some of the things, as simple as us having our event and having a good attendance. Okay. So say we have Race for Peace Committee, then our partner organization is called Urban Navigation. If you look up Urban Navigation on Facebook and stuff, we've had bowling against gun violence basketball events. And that's not a new thing. That's been around for a while. Gun violence, bowling against gun violence basketball events. And when we have our basketball events, a lot of youth come out to that, and a lot of like cops who are like not in uniform, they're out of uniform, off patrol, they play against the youth and stuff. And those been a big success because like 50 or more youth come to those at the gyms and stuff. We've been having the basketball events at the Kobe Bryant Gymnasium. Then the other gymnasium we have at Darby Borough Recreation Center, and Delaware County. And that's our House Speaker's district. That's Joanna McClinton. So for Pennsylvania, Joanna McClinton, that's her district. So we have our basketball games in her district and stuff. And those have been the biggest success. And what I'm proud of is the events. And when there's a lot of youth that come to the events, that's good.
Yeah. And how can the community get involved if they want to support this organization?
As everything is nowadays, is through social media. Our Facebook pages are popular. The one Facebook page is RFPC Social Media. Then the other one is Bowling Against Gun Violence, and then Urban Navigation.
Okay. Ultimately, where do you want to see Race for Peace Committee? Where do you want to see that in 5 years? What's your vision?
My vision for it is to really, just like I'm doing now, I'm talking to you and you're in Atlanta, Georgia and stuff, and I'm in Pennsylvania. I want to get it in different states, but to do that, we have to have an event. That's the thing. We would have to go out to New York City. We would have to travel, take a plane out to California and do an event in Compton, New York City, Bronx, wherever. And then Atlanta, ATL, Atlanta, Chicago. We would have to like invest some money and travel to these places and then work it out with the school districts and the political offices there and have an event. And then that's in 5 years, that's why I want to see it. It's just branch off more, especially throughout, say, New York, Delaware, and Washington, D.C., the right next door us, the Pennsylvania.
Yeah. So in final closing out, what is it that you want people to know about Race for Peace Committee? What do you need for people? Tell us everything when you summarize it to the people.
Race for Peace is an organization to bridge the gap between police and civilians. And then everyone can go to our Facebook page and follow and like our Facebook page. And that's what we're about. More police community outreach, more police community and youth involvement. And that's what we're mainly about. And our other goal is combating gun violence.
Great goals. Listen, our thanks go to Alim Howell for joining us tonight. There's a link in the bio of this video for more information on him and Race for Peace. And we'll be right back after this. Thank you, Alim.
Thank you, Stephen.